All right, kids, it's time for another adventure. I don't know where the fuck we are, but we're there. We're on Old Plank Road, that's where we are. And I say eeny, meeny, miny, straight. All right. So we're off on another adventure, like I just said, and we just got done revisiting one of our favorite things to do, destroying shit. We just smashed the absolute fuck out of an old compact, and well, needless to say, that's all that's left. So yeah, that was a hell of a lot of fun, and it got me to thinking, we never really shared any of our past stories of destruction. I mean, you've seen some of them in some of our other videos, but we never really talk about them. And I want to start with an old favorite. Years ago, we had our hands on an old 286. Now, for you youngins that don't know what that is, it's a fucking brick, basically. Yeah. Like, look it up on Wikipedia. This is not a techno how-to show. We had an old 286. It didn't work. The last time it probably worked was whenever Columbus was in diapers, you know.
Moby Dick was a guppy.
Yeah. So we decided, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna destroy this thing. So we drag it out in what's now my backyard. At the time it was my grandmother's yard, because she used to live in the house where I live now. To make a long story short. Anyway, we drag this thing out in the backyard and we pry the lid off of it.
Yep.
And we just light it the fuck on fire.
Dumped a little bit of gasoline in it, lit it on fire.
That's right, and that thing made a hell of a blaze. And of course she comes outside and she's like, what the hell are you guys doing? And without missing a beat, we're like, burning CDs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just don't catch the yard on fire. And by the way, this is the same grandmother that is now a YouTube sensation. Yeah. If you believe that one, I'll tell you another one. But anyway, so she is well aware of the sort of crazy shit that we've done.
Yeah, and she's even said we're friggin' crazy.
Exactly.
That's her words. You're friggin' crazy.
Exactly. Holy we're proud of it. Shit. That was my first one. You got one? I know we got a lot of them.
I'm gonna have to pass on that and let you. I'll think of some.
Well, tell the one we were talking about before we started rolling with the truck. You know the one.
Oh, yeah. Him and I were back into where we loved to normally go fuck around, and we had an old 19-inch flat, or 19-inch big-ass piece of shit monitor.
Yeah, it was an old Gateway CRT monitor that was fucking heavy.
That weighed probably about 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Nate said, hell with it. We'll dispose of this piece of shit. And we tie it to the receiver of my truck, and Nate climbs into bed, and he just tells me, just go.
It's like, go!
And that son of a bitchin' monitor was just bouncing around like a fucking rag doll back there for about 10-15 minutes. And then Nate kept on yelling at me, go faster, go faster. So I did. And that son of a bitch almost bounced up clean into the fucking bed.
Yeah, it did. I mean, some bitch was about an inch away from my head.
Yeah, that was a hell of a night.
I got another one.
All right.
This has been a recurring theme in our past few road trip videos, but once again, we're going back to my crazy neighbor. Now, he didn't do this, but he contributed. He gave us an old Craftsman push mower.
Yeah.
And this thing was a complete piece of shit. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, we decided we didn't even want to fuck with this thing. So we take it to one of our top secret destruction locations. And we get a piece of rope. We tie one end around the mower, one end around my truck, And that little sumbitch went for a ride.
Yeah.
We went around and around and around this little area we were. It had like hills and turns and dips and shit. We're watching that fucker bounce in the mirror. I mean, it almost flew up into bed a couple of times, and this is bouncing off.
Sparks are fucking flying.
Sparks flying. The gas tank goes one direction.
Fucking wheels are falling.
Wheels going the other direction. Bent the fuck out of the handle. Shit's flying off the motor. I mean, we twisted and mangled that thing. That thing looked like it went through fucking Hurricanes Katrina and Sandy by the time we were done with it. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
That was a hell of a lot of fun. Ah, shit. Tell them about the time, what we did when we had one of your ex-girlfriends with us and we had your old compact.
Oh my God, how could I ever forget? Had my ex-girlfriend with us, and of course, you know, Nate, I had my dad's truck. We decide we're gonna run this fucking computer over with the truck. So we dump it on the fucking road, lock the truck in four-wheel drive, and just run over the motherfucker repeatedly.
And didn't we have like a printer and a bunch of keyboards and shit with us that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one hell of a destruction derby with all this old shit. That's one of my favorites. No, I liked what you did before we left. And we had already beat it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you took the faceplate of the tower and hooked it around the hitch of the Lumina and drove around the block in front of my house like that.
Yeah.
That was a sight to see. Speaking of which, this is kind of getting off the subject a little bit, but speaking of that car and my truck, this was not long after I got my truck, and we were both pulling in front of my house, and somebody took off the fog light on my back bumper. I won't mention who, but I will say that it's not the one driving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And considering we're in my car, that narrows it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I just decided to get it right up on Nate's ass and whoop, snap.
I mean, the one rear fog light was already missing, so I didn't really care, but still.
What they were for was for extra backup lights, so the previous owner could see the backup, I'm guessing, to a trailer. I don't know.
Well, I heard there no more.
Fuck no. I almost forgot about that.
I didn't.
Of course, it was your truck.
Uh-huh. And so, just to be fair, since I said that, I'll say this. One time in winter, we had pulled into the same spot, and I went to get out of the truck. And apparently I failed to notice the sheet of ice directly under my feet. Next thing you know, thwomp, I'm flat on my ass, staring straight up in the air.
What the hell?
Somebody with a death wish, I'm guessing. I don't even know. Now he turned his four ways off and he's pulling off. All right then.
Good.
You just do that, buddy. All right. All right. Okay. Well, that was an interesting distraction.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was me falling on my ass.
Yeah.
And, I think we'll come back here in a little bit whenever we got some more destruction stories for you.
Okay.
All right, we're back and thought up a few more stories for you, and I'm going to start with one here that was fairly recent. Since we started out talking about smashing the computer, here a few weeks back, we destroyed Dean's old computer. Now, I forget, I think I bought this thing at a salvage place at one point, and I had initially fixed it up for myself, and it was just one of my experimental beat-around systems. You know, that's kind of my thing. And we had finally decided that he deserved to have his own computer, because he was to the age where he kind of needed one, and we were going to hook him up. So we got him one. And we had it fixed up working great. And I won't mention who did it, but it's not one of us, and it wasn't Dean. It was a friend of ours. Got his hands on it and fucked it up royally. So we brought it down to my place, and I was going to fix it for him.
Yeah.
And he drops it as soon as he gets out of the car. It completely annihilates it.
Yeah.
By that point, this one that I had fixed up, I had already prepared to dispose of. I had it outside in my junk trailer. And we were rooting through all of my scraps, you know, trying to decide which one we were going to try and salvage, so that way he wasn't at a computer. So we found this thing. So we dried it off and brought it inside, and I stuffed all the necessary components in it, and I went to fire it up and nothing happened. So I sit there and I frantically poke at the on and off button until it finally just sprung to life and it worked. But as soon as the fan started rolling, a bunch of stink bugs started rolling out of this thing. And thus we named it the stink bug. And he used this thing for a good while. I mean, it actually survived a pretty long time. It survived being left outside and him using it for however long that was he had it. I mean, that was a good while. How long did he have that thing? Had to, probably a couple years?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for something we dug out of the junk. Well, anyway, when that thing was finally ready to give up the ghost, I hooked him up with a better one. You know, he kind of graduated from the kids' toys, and I got him a good one. So we take the old one out in the backyard, and we just have a field day with it. I mean, we smashed the fuck out of that thing. I mean, there was parts flying everywhere. Hey, we made our way back to Old Plank Road again. And I am gonna go left. And, shit was flying everywhere, you know, processor goes one way, the heat sink goes the other way, CD drive tray goes flying across the yard, bend the fuck out of the case. That was a hell of a night. I mean, there was like not a recognizable part of that thing left by the time we were done.
No.
So yeah, that was the story of the stink bug. A tough little piece of shit in the time that it survived. And while we're talking about things we've destroyed, a while back here we were trying to fix an old stereo that had a turntable on it. The turntable wouldn't go. And we tried everything we could think of to fix it. And there was like a rubber band or some shit in underneath that went from the motor to the turntable, and we couldn't get it to stay.
No matter what we tried, it would not fucking work.
It would work for about 2 seconds and then derail.
Yep.
And I think we tried every last thing we could think of and we gave up. So, took it to another one of our top secret locations. Bashed it up a little bit and just lit the fucker on fire.
Yep.
And it burned good.
Burned for a good long time too.
Yeah, I mean, that box of shit that we smashed up in more utter destruction, I mean, it burnt about like that.
Yeah, and the heat that come off of that son of a bitch was like, damn.
Yeah. I mean, we did that, what, like in the fall?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a good heat source, tell you what. I mean, we were up in the middle of nowhere in one of our locations, and that sumbitch put off some good heat. Yeah, so, checking my notes here. We've gotten to the point where we have to write this shit down.
Yeah.
Because we're slowly turning into old fucks. But, anyway, on the subject of destroying electronics, had a little slim case gateway years ago. I mean, it wasn't nothing fancy. It was like a penny and 3. And it was just a tiny little, you know, mini case. You know, it was big enough you could just fit one of everything in it, and that was it. You know, little desktop model. And the only thing that it was lacking was a network adapter. And I didn't have any that would fit in a slim case. So I made one. Just took one, cut the end off of the faceplate, bent it over with the pair of pliers, and it worked. And I had this thing hooked up for a while, and then it started to act up. You know, that's what happens when you deal with old technology. You know, no two ways about it. So, took it to yet another one of our favorite top secret locations, and we destroyed it. I mean, bashed the living fuck out of it, you know, made it into a mangled mess. And we actually left it lay there for a while. A few months later, we came back to the location and it was still in the spot where we hid it. So we thought, you know what, we got some unfinished business with this thing. So we took it further up into the middle of nowhere and we tossed it off the side of a mountain. Watched it roll down the rocks, never to be seen again. I like hitting rumble strips. It's fun. Oh, listen to that rumble.
Damn.
That was a good one.
That was a rumbler.
That's right. So yeah, that's the story of that thing. Not a really very detailed story, but it was one nonetheless. And you know, that reminds me of a time where we had like a whole carload. We had like this very car loaded to the hilt with stuff. And we took it to another one of our top secret disposal locations. And just fling, shit disappearing into oblivion. You know. I mean, we had this car loaded down. We had the trunk full, the back seat full. I mean, you couldn't have slipped the dollar bill behind the driver's seat of this car. I mean, that was a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm going to use to transition to the next story. We might have told this before, but I'm using this to lead into the next thing on our notes. One time I had a bunch of old mowers. And at the time I wasn't driving and I didn't have any better way to haul any. And I wanted to bring some up to his place.
Yeah.
So the only thing available was my grandmother's car. Now she drives a Buick. I had the trunk full of push mowers. I had the back seat full of push mowers. I even had the front seat full of push mowers. Now, the front seat of her car, like, you can fold up the armrest and it makes a bench seat. I had to sit in the middle while she drove me up with all these mowers in the car. She didn't even think twice about me doing it. Like, she did not care.
Nope.
She was just glad to see that shit be gone. So yeah, there I am. We're parked in the driveway. I'm pulling mowers out of the car left and right. I had to have, what, about 5 or 6 in that sumbitch?
At least.
At least 5 or 6 push mowers in a Buick. So, you know, I got a Pontiac, so I guess that says something about GM engineering, doesn't it? Oh, shit. Now, I told you that story to tell you this story. And we used that old line over and over again, but this time it's the honest to God truth, because I couldn't think of a better way to lead into it. But from this same batch of old lawnmowers, oh, this guy's turning in. From this same batch of old lawnmowers, I used to know this guy, you know, about 10 or so years ago. And to this day, he still fixes old lawnmowers and sells them. Well, he gave me a shit ton of them. I mean, we had my dad's truck piled up past the roof. We brought a fuck ton of these things home one time. I'd say at least 30 of them.
At least.
At least.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Most of them were push mowers. There was like one ride mower in the bunch. We'll get to that later. But anyway, we'd fixed a couple of them up to resell. A couple of them we kept, you know. And the leftovers were either ones where like the shaft was bent, or there was like a hole in the block, or the body was rusted away to powder.
We just used them for parts.
We stripped off of them whatever we thought was still good, you know. And we decided to have some fun with the leftovers. So we went around and bashed all the engines up with a big old sledgehammer. We went around, bashed a hole in the block, you know, pound it down until it's nothing but shards of metal. You know, crunch, crunch, smash, smash, bash, bash, until they were nothing but unrecognizable, twisted, maimed up masses of metal. I just gave myself a tongue twister. What the fuck is wrong with me? But anyway, so yeah, that was how we got rid of that shit, and of course we hauled it off. There was a guy local that, you know, collected scrap, you know, so he got our leftovers, you know, so that was fun. Let's see, what else do I got on the notes here? Oh yeah, speaking of old mowers and shit that we collected over the years, at one point I had about 3 or 4 old ride mowers. We had Chrome Star Runner 1, which I did that little montage video of a while back. We never got any video footage of us using it, and I kind of regret that now. But this was before we started doing YouTube.
Yep.
Like, we had that thing, like, before YouTube was even a thing.
Yeah.
You know? Like, the earliest stuff that we uploaded, we recorded right around YouTube's, you know, early days, 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
But anyway, this thing was an old Sears rear-engine riding mower. And, it was no good for mowing anymore. Like, the deck was rotted away, you know, the brakes didn't work, so on and so forth.
All that in a rap sheet. It was a piece of shit.
Yeah. But we had a little 8 horsepower engine on that thing, and this thing was a 5-speed chain drive. And, well, to get right to the point, we were driving it around in the yard one day, and we decided to see if we could do a wheelie.
Oh, yeah.
And oh, fuck did we ever. I mean, you wind that thing up, you know, pop the clutch, that thing flipped you straight up in the air and on your ass. I think it flipped both of us, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. I don't remember if I ever talked about this one before, but I had an old, believe it or not, people, at one point in history, JCPenney sold yard equipment, like, in the store. Like, anytime I've ever been to JCPenney in recent years, it's all closed and shit.
Yeah.
But at one time, you could actually buy yard equipment there. Maybe you still can through a catalog, I don't know, I don't look at fucking catalogs, because I don't. And anyway, I had an old JCPenney ride mower from, like, the late 70s. Early 70s, sometime in the 70s. I don't remember how fucking old that thing was. Anyway, this thing only had forward and reverse. It had no gears whatsoever, just forward and reverse. You know, you had go and backwards. That was it. Again, it had a little 8 horsepower Brayton Stratton on it. You know, old, you know, point and condenser engine, you know, like old school shit. But it ran. It actually ran pretty good. In fact, I think I still have the starter off of it. But anyway, this thing had a problem. Besides all the other problems it had. But the main problem, it only went in reverse. Drive didn't work. And there was no clutch. So, I get the brilliant idea to take the drive belt and put a twist in the middle. And for those of you that wonder why I would do such a thing, when you do that, it changes the direction that the opposite end is turning. So instead of going the same way as your driving end, it's now going the opposite direction. You know, science. Anyway, so that was how I got it to go forward, and it actually would drive around. I mean, like I said, I only had 1 speed, and the engine really only ran like full tilt. Like if you tried to throttle down, it would just gag out. So it only ran like full tilt. Anyway, it stalled in the yard on me. So I started it back up. And I went to slam it in gear. I was straight, vertical, looking up at the sky, and it took off without me. I got the presence of mind to, I should probably get the fuck up and catch this thing. So I get up and run up and pull the choke so it gags out. Because it didn't have any wiring, so I couldn't shut it off. So I just had to pull the choke and let it flood itself out. So yeah, well, then I got the brilliant idea to take it back in the woods.
Oh shit.
Go back and watch Arians Part 2, where I climbed the hill. I took it up that hill.
Yeah.
I got to the top and it stalled. And since the only way to start it was to jump it off of a battery, I just had to push it home, and I said, fuck it. That thing went to the scrap, and I never saw it again.
Oh, we're about to lose battery.
Alright, well, we're going to call this one a segment since the battery's about to piss out on us, so we'll come back to you in a little bit. And we're back. And right now, we are definitely in the middle of no fucking where. I mean, we're in dirt road territory now.
Yep.
Well, anyway, before the battery issue was a thing, I was getting ready to tell another story about, you know, top secret disposal spots. And there's a spot that used to be one of our favorite disposal spots up on top of a mountain. And we would take a lot of stuff up there and just whiz stuff up the side. And I won't disclose where any of these locations are for obvious reasons, but I will say that most of this stuff that we've been talking about is stuff that's happened to us a long time ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, this spot is a favorite spot of hang gliders.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sure that over the years they've seen some of our debris. But anyway, getting back into the next few stories that I wanted to tell tonight. I used to have an old MTD riding mower, and this thing was a royal piece of shit. I mean, like, the frame was held together with like shelf brackets. I mean, and wood screws. Like, this thing was a piece of shit. But me and a friend of mine at the time got this thing, and we painted this thing like flat black, and we painted the rims like chrome. And for those of you who listen to the band Him, their logo, the heartogram logo, we painted that on the hood. And I'm not really a big fan of that sort of thing, but he was, and we went with it. But anyway, this is the one that's also in the Chrome Star Runner 1 video. Refer back to that. This thing had like this ghetto looking exhaust stack that we built on this thing out of pipes and a round muffler. But anyway, that thing was like flimsy. Like, it did not hold together well at all.
No.
The thing was made for 8 horsepower engine, and we crammed a 12.5 horsepower on it, which, you know, is certainly not the largest thing we've ever stuffed on anything.
No.
History has shown that, but it was enough to make this thing shake, rattle, and roll. And that little piece of shit would scoot. Like, it had some speed behind it.
Yeah.
And his grandmother used to live very close to me, like right up over the hill from where I live. And one time in the winter, I drove this thing over there, and I was like sitting there spinning it there in the driveway, you know, melting the ice with it. And I'd catch a rock, that thing would pop a mean wheelie.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, unlike several of the other machines that we've created over the years, this one was actually capable of cutting grass, believe it or not.
Yeah.
In fact, I think to date it's the only one that we've used in such a manner that was capable of it.
Except for the Arians.
Well, the Arians
was just...
That was actually my primary mowing mower.
Yeah.
While I had it, believe it or not. But, anyway. Now, we talked about this next one before, somewhat. And, you know, of course, we have the video of it. And, but Chrome Star Runner 2, I don't know if I've ever really told the story behind how I got that or not. So if this is all stuff you've heard before, you know, you can skip this part if you want to, because, you know, we tell so many of these, I tend to, you know, forget which ones. Lose track. Right, we lose track of them. But anyway, this same guy that gave us all of the old push mowers and stuff that we talked about before, he had this thing sitting back in the weeds. And, you know, it had the mower deck with it, it had an engine in it and stuff, but I was mainly just interested in it just for something to screw around with.
That we did.
And yes, we did. His only condition was I had to take the original engine out of it. It came with a 10 horsepower Tecumseh engine in it, and he wanted it. So I said fine, because I had the 8 horsepower engine that we eventually stuffed in it.
Yep.
Now, didn't that 8 horsepower come off of an old Homelite or something?
Yeah, some shit like that.
Something like that. And it had this weird exhaust pipe that wrapped around and it had a muffler on the end of it.
Yeah.
Well, we stuffed this engine on this thing. Like, this took us a while to get this thing to the point where we could actually drive it.
Yeah.
And we had the engine on, and it still had that original exhaust pipe on it. And the muffler had just rusted off the end of it, so it was just the pipe coming back, and it just happened to be right where the brake pedal was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our friend Ralph, hopefully you'll get to meet him in a future video, because trust me, you'll love this guy.
Yeah.
But, of course, with the mind that he has, he takes one look at that. You know exactly what I'm about to say.
Yes, I do.
He takes one look at that, and he's like, oh, that's a winter mower.
And we look at him, what the fuck?
What the fuck are you talking about, Ralph? He's like, you got the exhaust coming out right there. Keep your foot warm. It's a winter mower. And of course, you know, we never thought of it that way because we weren't planning on leaving it that way.
No.
We had just gotten the engine on it to the point where we could start it up and see if it ran.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we took that winter mower pipe off and we put the muffler on it that you see in the video, which was the wrong size, so we had to put a reducer on it to a smaller piece of pipe, but in the end it worked.
Yep.
And the seat that was on that thing was ripped up to hell. Like, it looked like rats and mice and shit had got to it. It was pretty bad. So we wrapped the whole seat in duct tape.
At least 4 fucking rolls.
3 or 4 rolls of duct tape. Like, I think we made a couple trips to the dollar store that day to get more duct tape. Because we wanted to make for damn sure that that seat was not coming apart.
Yep.
And the other problem that this thing had was the steering wheel was broken.
Yeah.
Like, it was all floppy and like whatever was inside of it was snapped off. So I took a steering wheel for a different kind of mower and I kind of rigged it to fit.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't actually on there dead center, but it worked good enough that we could drive it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I had this thing for a while. You know, we would drive it around the yard, you know, take it out and about. And one day I was driving it up and over the hill, again, by where his grandmother was living at the time. And both ends of the rear axle came out. They just flopped right there on the ground.
Yeah.
So I had to go home, get my van at the time, load it up in there and took it back home. And I went back to this guy and got another rear axle off of him, which is the one that we were using when we shot the video.
Yeah.
And it even, as a bonus, it actually had meatier tires on it, which worked out to our advantage for what we were gonna do. So, by this point, this thing had just about everything replaced on it to get it just so it was drivable. I mean, we fixed the seat, steering wheel, replaced the back axle, you name it. The drive belt, I think, was off of another mower that I used to have that just by some miracle it fit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we went to shoot the video and we were thinking, well, what all sorts of crazy shit can we do with this thing? You know? So we thought, all right, well, fuck it. We'll build a ramp in the backyard. So we got the built crates and the plywood and we made that ramp, which to me is probably still the coolest looking shot in that video, next to the rooster tail of dirt coming off of the back tires, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But, you know, I want to make something perfectly clear. A lot of that older stuff we didn't really intend it to be good. It was more like an ironic thing where it was lame on purpose.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way we are. Like, we know it's not that spectacular, but we play it up like it is. But anyway, so then after that, we did what we called burnouts, which obviously they weren't quite, but you know, we went with it. You know, we got the tires to spin, chirped them a little bit, and
couldn't get any smoke, but
stretched out the belt even more. You know,
if for some chance we could have got a hold of some bleach at the time, we would have been able to make some smoke.
Yeah, but by that point we'd already made enough trips to the dollar store.
Yeah.
So we were a little low on money. But anyway, we couldn't think of anything else specific to do with it. So we decided, you know, the hell with it, we're just gonna drive it around all willy-nilly. And
mind you, this thing had either idle or completely wide the fuck open, probably about 8,000 or 9,000 RPMs.
Right, which leads to how the video ended.
Yeah.
Of course, if you've seen it, you know that I was going up that hill and I got it to spin there in the dirt, and you get that nice rooster tail of dirt and grass and earthworms and
you name it.
Whatever it is that happened to be buried there at the time, flying out the back, and it looks cool as shit. And of course there's cars driving by in the background. You know, I didn't care. We never care. But anyway, what happened, and I might have explained this in the past, but just, you know, since we're on the subject, the engine locked up and the transmission locked up at the exact same time.
We don't know how?
Yeah, I don't know how I accomplished that, but damn it, I did. And of course, you saw me, if you watched that, go back and watch it if you didn't. It'll make more sense if you do. But as I'm sitting there frantically trying to get this thing back into neutral to get down off the hill, I finally jarred it loose. And we stopped the camera because we were going to try and get it going again, because we weren't sure what happened at that point. Well, then we determined, well, it's fucked. So, weren't we like walking back toward the house to get the good mower to drag it back out?
Yeah.
Whenever I shot the ending? Yeah. That's what we were doing. Yeah, we were walking back to the house to get the good mower to drag it back up the road so we didn't have to push this fucking thing, because it wouldn't roll, like the axle was locked up. So we were getting ready to drag it back up to my house, and that's what happened there. Now, there was one more thing we were going to do in the video, but A, the mower blew up, and B, we ran out of daylight. The deleted scene video we did with this, where we talk about it a little bit, we had this little trailer that I made out of a, what that actually is like was like a furniture dolly. Yeah. A piece of plywood and an old kitchen chair. And we made the chair wagon. And we had actually tested it beforehand to see if you could actually sit on this thing and not fall off and crack your head open. And it actually worked.
We did.
And
we rode it over to my grandmother's house.
And of course, you know, like anybody else that's ever witnessed us make any of these videos, she thought we were fucking crazy.
She looked at us and she said, "What in the hell is that? What is that?" It's a chair wagon.
Chair wagon. Now, after the fact, when the chair finally fell apart,
yeah,
we had gotten our mitts on a driver's seat out of an old Chevy Cavalier.
Mm-hmm.
So we replaced the kitchen chair with that, and it worked a lot better.
Yeah, and it was a hell of a lot more comfortable.
A lot more comfortable and lowered down, so it wasn't as top heavy. And, you know, it's posted for the world to see where I tried to sit on the chair wagon and just fell the fuck off.
Yeah.
So yeah, that took care of that problem, and we kept that thing for a while till we realized we weren't really using it anymore, and we got rid of it.
Yeah, we got to make another one.
We do need to make another one someday, and we will, and it will be on YouTube for the world to see. So sometime in the distant future, you will get to see us build a new chair wagon and put it to the test. That I guarantee you is something we will do at some point. I don't know when, but we'll do it. So using that to lead into the next one.
Oh shit.
Hello.
Drop the camera there for a second. Sorry about that.
All right, we're back. And anyway, as I was saying, we had another Craftsman riding mower similar to Chrome Star Runner 1, but a newer one.
Yep.
And I was just using it like an ordinary lawnmower. I took the original sputtery and gaggy engine off of it, stuck another 12.5 horsepower on it, and I took it down to where my neighbor's mother lived at the time, and I was using it to mow the high weeds along the driveway. Like, she had a really long driveway, and there was high weeds and stuff there, and I was using it to mow that. Mind you, this isn't really a funny story. I'm just, you know, telling it to be thorough.
Yeah.
But and of course, I get it all but done. Everything was going great. That shit was going through like a 2-foot high weeds. And then it starts pissing oil out the bottom of the motor, where the
crank seal.
The crank seal, yeah. Guess which one of us is the one that's mechanically inclined? But anyway.
Yeah.
But
the
anyway,
automotive technician here.
But anyway, was I fucking pissed? Because that thing was mowing great. I mean, I was going through shit that I could barely even walk through with that. And of course, it had to start pissing oil. And of course, I didn't bother fixing it because the thing was a freebie and the engine was a freebie, so I didn't bother. In hindsight, I wish I would have, but I didn't.
Oh well.
So yeah. And one last lawnmower related story tonight. And speaking of future projects, this is one that we started working on last year, and we kind of hit a wall, and I'll explain that as we go through the story. But I was with Dean last summer, and we got this old Homelite Jacobson off of somebody, and it's a rear engine ride mower. It's just 11 horsepower, 5-speed, but the guy's kids threw the away.
Yeah.
Which was the whole reason we wanted the thing in the first place. Well, he had another mower deck there that wasn't for it, but he let us have it. So we spent a couple of weeks on our spare time fabricating like new mounting brackets and everything to make this mower deck fit. We got it to the point where it would fit the mower, we just didn't hook up the drivetrain for it yet.
Right.
Well, one thing about this thing is there was no carburetor for the motor, and the front tire was flat. Other than that, it was drivable. Like, you could start it up and go, because I had a spare carburetor for it. We didn't have the air breather for it yet, but we were planning to get it. But anyway, the front tire was flat. We were going to fix that, because once we got the mechanical bits sorted out, we were going to fix this thing up as a legit mower for Dean.
Yep.
Well, not to bash Dean too much, but sometimes the boy does not make the best decisions.
Does not use his fucking head. Sometimes he uses it just for a fucking hat rack, but
we love him, you know.
Yep. I have to, he's my brother.
Right, you know. But anyway, we told him, don't run it with a flat tire. Well, he ran it with a flat tire. To make a long story short, busted the steering clear out of it. So that project's on hold until we can get the steering fixed. But that's another one you'll see in the future once we get back to working on it.
Yep.
You know. So, I mean, we still have it. We have all the parts. It's still sitting there. We just need to get back to it. Once we get that steering fixed, we're going to chug along and finish putting it together.
Yep.
And I think, you know, once we get it together, it's going to be one hell of a thing. So, I think that was all I had for tonight. Unless you got something else.
Nope.
Alright, well then I guess I'm going to call that one a video. So, we'll see you next time. Remember, if you like what you see, leave a like, subscribe, and anything else you want to see us do in the future, leave it in the comments. So that's it.
Please do, and thank you. Have a good night.